Welcome your hosts, Caddy, Frink, and Erin Fitzgerald, as they lead discussions about substance use disorder and the journey to recovery. You're listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution.
Well, good day, good day, good day. We are here. We are not outside in the wind from the last show that we had. We are here with Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. We are here with Minnesota Recovery Connection. That is who brings us to this lovely space. And I am across the table from my amazing human. So, Erin, what do you have to say?
Hello, good morning. I'm really happy to be back here today. Yeah, last week was so much fun. The live show. Wow, that I was not prepared for my ADHD.
Did it kind of kick in, honey bunny?
You know, it's bad enough just like sitting here across from you when like my thoughts kind of go their own separate ways, multiple directions and such. And then you add beautiful people and colors that are going around. And yeah, it was a lot for me, but it was so much fun.
So much fun.
Yeah.
So much fun.
The whole weekend was really fun. Oh, thank you. Before we get started with our show today, thank you to our donors from all over the place, from big donors to little donors. We appreciate you very much.
Awesome. So let us start off as we always do. Erin, what's right with you today, my friend?
Oh, you know what's right with me? I am gearing up for a holiday weekend, and I could really use the time off. I've got 5 days off, I think. I know. I don't think you even know that yet.
No, I saw it. Come through on an email. Yes, we work together, folks. So it came through on an email.
I accidentally requested off one day, really late.
That's okay.
Thanks, man. That's what's right with me. I'm going to get a little bit of dental work done on my way up north, and then spend some time not in the city and not on my computer and not working, and that'll be lovely.
I know. We just close our computers on days off. Isn't it lovely?
It's really great.
It's really lovely.
Well, most of us do anyway.
Most of it, yeah. Yeah.
Caddy.
No, I'm pretty good.
You weren't working yesterday, but you checked your email.
Well, you know, I
printed that on the air. Busted.
Yes.
What is right with you, ma'am?
Well, you know what's really wonderful is that I did have yesterday off. I've had a long few days, we'll just call it that, which will be somewhat of our topic for discussion today. But I got to be in my garden all day yesterday. I was gardening, I was laundrying, I was gardening, I was sitting in my chair in my backyard, and then I was gardening, and then I was mowing, and then I was weed whacking. And you know what? There is no better place for me. I don't have music in my head. I have nothing. I just look at all of the stuff that needs to be taken care of, and I just take care of it. And then I sit down for a while and have something to drink. I mean, let me tell you, yesterday I was just in my total space.
I know that you were. I can tell by the look on your face. And also because I think you worked like 80 hours last week. And yesterday was supposed to be your day off, but you spent it, what did you say, 7 hours in the garden?
7.
Yeah, that's insane.
You
should have been resting.
Coulda, shoulda. But
that was your
my resting. That is my resting. I mean, I know there's probably other avid gardeners out there, both in the recovery community and outside the recovery community. And it is just a joyful place because plants don't talk back. They just do stuff that you want them to, and then they do stuff you don't want them to do.
They listen pretty well too, yeah.
Yeah, well, those little weedy weeds, they just come up and they go, ah. Anyway, so yeah, all about Caddy's gardening, because you know it is all about us. But you know what? We did have an amazing weekend. We were at Pride, and there's a lot that goes on with Pride, and there's a lot that goes on that is part of that community. But what I was thinking about was there are so many conversations that I had with all walks of life. It's not just people who are living part of the LGBTQ community that go to that event.
Right.
It is people from every corner and space, actually around probably our Midwest. You know, I mean, it's the largest.
I met somebody from Australia when we were there.
Did you really?
Yeah, that was great.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's so, you know, one of the things I wanted to just say is like, I had some conversations with people of different ages, of different backgrounds, some that were struggling with substance use disorder, some that were just passing by saying, what do you guys do? And then I'm sure you had them too. I would say, well, we help people that struggle with addiction, substance use disorder, maybe, drugs or alcohol. And they're like, wow, that's so cool.
Yes.
And then you kind of go into just a little bit of a spiel and they're like, that's just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Because, they're not people that struggle, but they're like, wow, that's really cool. And I'm like, yeah, we are cool.
Yeah, I got a lot of thank yous, which was kind of unexpected.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really nice.
So I just want to sort of, what kind of conversations did you have? What did you encounter?
I had a lot of kids asking about like the testing strips. When I say kids, I mean younger adults.
Yeah.
And maybe,
not little people. We're
no.
talking about adultish.
Yes. I'm not kid anymore. So just asking about like what is the goal of using like the xylazine strips and the fentanyl strips.
Mm-hmm.
And most people went up and grabbed the fentanyl strips, which is fantastic. Everybody's familiar with fentanyl.
Right.
And they were kind of like, what's the xylazine for?
Mm-hmm.
And what most people, or any of them actually, didn't realize that xylazine has also been put into drug supplies, and it's showing up in 1 out of every 15 tests that comes back positive for fentanyl.
Is it really that many?
Yeah, and so we really
Wow.
need to start testing for that, like just as frequently, because
Yeah.
it's more powerful. It can't be reversed, right?
Right. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
not an opiate, so it doesn't have the ability to be taken care of by naloxone, Narcan. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was good to see people asking questions, gaining the
Yes.
information, taking the strips and saying like, thank you, I'm going to use these.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. And then wondering where we are so that they could get more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I talked, and I'm always going to, fan the flame of Steve Remler Hope Network,
Yes.
because that's where we get a lot of our supplies. We also get it from other organizations as well. But I told many people, they're like, oh, can I have a kit? Can I have this? And I'm like, yeah. And by the way, the name is on there, and you could go get yourself trained, and you could be a person who carries this stuff with you.
That's what
know?
I said. Too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's all about education.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes down to a huge event like that, and people, inquiring minds want to know, I'm going to tell them.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what I like too, Caddy, just, bringing up this conversation, you and I had a conversation about going up to where Sober Pride, Minnesota was, kind of up on a hill, and where we were located right behind Target's little area there. And that would be so good. That's great that there's the Sober Pride area, but it's kind of secluded in an offset area.
Yeah.
And they just don't get as much foot traffic.
Exactly.
Period. Right. And people don't necessarily go looking for sober event or, organizations and stuff. So being where we were was really fantastic. We saw so many people, and we were able to send other folks to Steve Rumler or up to the hill and just make sure that they knew, like, we're not just at this booth here. There's other places around this festival too.
Yeah, no, I think sometimes things happen for a reason, and we think maybe we all should be one small little community. But I think the important part is that we can share the wealth, but it's also good to have us everywhere, because we can be touch points. There's like 2,000 vendors that were at that event. Oh my goodness. How they do that, I'm not quite sure.
That's insane.
But the idea is that touch points everywhere that we go, because guess what? Substance use disorder, addiction is everywhere, and it hits everybody in different spots and places.
Yes. Can I give a shout out?
Please.
To Whitney Nelson from Marco.
Yeah.
She had her new malt beverage, non-alcoholic ostrich sized was premiered, and it's so great. I mean, I love listening to her tell the story because she's so enthusiastic. It's her baby, but so she was selling this and told me just a little bit about the backstory of it and why she's doing it. And the goal is that in the future, the profits from that beverage will go towards the recovery community. And it was so great to see that she was busy too.
Yeah.
I mean, there were people stopping, and I had a can and I kept showing it to everybody like, oh, go check this out.
Promotion.
Yes.
Well, we need to have alternatives in our community. We need to have options. And I think it was brought up. I can't remember who brought it up, but there's mocktails now. I think it was you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, how many conversations did I have on Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah.
So this bright woman across from me. We can go out to a community and we can have fun.
Yes, because summertime for you means gardens. And for me, it definitely used to be sit on the patio with a cocktail. And now I feel like I can feel included in that.
Yeah, we can socialize. Well, we're about ready to take our first break, and I just want to thank Erin for a delightful conversation. When we come back, we're going to be talking about self-care. We're going to talk about burnout. We're going to talk about a few different things. So Wait and listen. Here we come again.
Okay.
Here we go.
Welcome back to Redefining Recovery. It is a recovery revolution. I'm Erin Fitzgerald, and across from me is Caddy, Frink. And today we are going to talk about self-care and burnout, especially in the peer recovery service department. And one reason I wanted to talk about this, Caddy, is not even necessarily because of myself. But I do want to talk about like the comparison in you and I. But last week you had such a long week driving from the cities to St. Cloud and training 5 days. And then Saturday you spent about 10 hours at Pride working.
Not quite 10 hours, but a chunk.
About 8. It was a long time. And then Sunday again, you did the same thing. And I kept trying to intervene and take the time away from you, even though it would not have been beneficial to me or my little person. But I know that for me, especially when we're talking about these subjects and we're listening to people's struggles and their triumphs and all of these different things that can really weigh on us on its own. And then you add the extra hours on top of it.
Yeah.
And I know that we love doing this. We do it for a reason, but it can still wear on us.
Yeah.
Yes.
So true.
And I just wanted to push you into taking some time and some self-care. It turns out you did. You spent the day in your garden, and that was wonderful. I'm so glad that you did. It's so important.
It really is. It is, and this is, this doesn't happen all the time where we have, I particularly personally, I have back to back, but a lot of demands are made on us when we're in the caring field. And it happens in a lot of places. And peer recovery services that we train and then we offer. And as you said, we're out in the community touching touch points with people all over, like we did with Pride.
Yeah, seeing,
there's seeing, hearing, feeling, picking up, and then some of us who are built-in caretakers want to just like dive into helping a person. Sometimes we even want to save a person. But I go back to the point that I don't have any right to fix anybody, but I can help along with all of our people that we work with, and then the people that are helping the people out in the lived community, because family members get exhausted by their people that are unhealthy, both mentally and physically and chemically, and all the caretakers around. And so we truly do run into, I'm just freaking tired. I'm just tired. I'm worn out.
That's like that compassion fatigue.
Exactly.
That happens before the burnout. Yeah. And I think that for me, you and I have such similar personalities where we do want to go, and we do our best to always be helping. And I think we both know when it's a time to stop that as well,
sometimes.
Right? Well, I mean, yeah, that's true. I know when, I just don't.
Yeah, exactly. You know when, but don't. Yes. And I think we're speaking to a large audience out there too.
Right, exactly. And that's what I was seeing in you. And like, I was seeing that it was, you needed to say no, but you weren't saying no. But it's like I leave work and then I have my little person. And when you leave work, if you haven't worked extra hours in the week, which you have, you almost always have other people that you're doing things for or with or whatever. And so you're constantly busy. And I know that it's difficult just to get that self-care. And it's just so freaking important. I go weeks without doing anything that's actually for me.
Right.
I'll do things that are like good for me.
Right.
But not
that concentration
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and so the discussion will be about compassion fatigue. Some people know what compassion fatigue is. That's really when your compassion is fatigued. You just don't have it anymore, but you haven't necessarily run into that burnout phase yet. I mean, it's one of the things that we talk about at work. Do we all manage very well? Not particularly, but it's something that we talk about, practice. And I think this goes for all humanity. It goes for American society. I mean,
Mhm.
we are not a society that says take your vacation days. We're like, just work through it, just, rack up that PTO or whatever it is. There's some show host from radio station. It's AM. No, well, I'm on AM 950 right now. It's KSDP. They have a radio show called FM1. It's FM 107. I can't remember what My Talk, I think, is I can't remember what it is. But one of their hosts, they just retired. They've been on the air for 22 years. They were what sort of brought me to where I am today in terms of listening. But my point is that one of the hosts, her name is Lori, she always took her vacations to the point where we're like, is she ever going to come back? And I admired that. And there were some letters that came in that talked about, we really are super happy that you are, you taught us to take vacations. And it's
Mhm.
something that we need to think about because we don't do it very well.
Mhm.
But in this field, we are feelers. Sometimes we take on the role of healers, resource people, but in that resource navigating, we have to listen to what people are ailing with
Mhm.
and try to find the next thing. And that can be exhausting because sometimes we have to pick people's brains apart and figure out what is that thing. And you were just telling me earlier today that you were talking to a human at our other office and just sort of elaborate on what her situation was. Because I think it's a great definition of her being a self-care person and feeling like,
Oh, sure. Yep. She's an elderly woman, and she has a mental health diagnosis. And she was brought into the office for peer services. And essentially, what she said she wanted is somebody to show that they care for her because she's been a caregiver. She was a teacher for many years, and after that she retired and took care of her nieces and nephews and great nieces and nephews, and now she's not needed anymore. And so she's just lonely. She's missing that connection. And she also revealed that it was difficult for her, and still is, to make good connections because of her childhood. She grew up in a military family and moved very frequently and never had opportunities to make those lasting friendships. And so, I mean, she's in her 70s and that's still affecting her today.
Yeah.
And all she wants is somebody to call and she wants to feel like they care about her.
Right. Well, and I think that's one of the things that we talk about is building community around people that struggle with substance use or mental health issues, because a lot of times people isolate. And then when we as peer recovery specialists and certified peer recovery specialists come in, we have to really sort of I don't want to say this the way it's going to sound awful, but we have to sort of break down those walls a little bit of that isolation. It's like, no, I'm okay.
Oh, for
It's,
sure.
it's okay. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I'll just take a phone call. And then we have to sort of get to that backstory, which is where that fatigue comes in this work.
It can also, I'm thinking about what I see in people, and I want to tell them, or I am telling them all the positive things that I see in them. And when they don't receive that, and I drill it and tell them 100 times, you're fantastic, you're beautiful,
wonderful,
you're smart, and yes,
all of the above. Yeah.
I just want you to just say it one time, and I want you to see it because it's been so long since you've felt this, or maybe you never did, but I see it. And that can be exhausting too, to just try and pull people up because we're trying to restore people.
Oh,
right?
I love that
And
word,
obviously,
restore people. Yeah. Restore them back to what they have not seen for a long time, are afraid to see, don't know what that looks like. I think that's a perfect way that you said that. Restoring people. That's beautiful, Erin.
Because we do, it's more difficult. I'm not saying that it's really easy for people to just, I say it to you once and you better believe it kind of thing, because I'm still working on me, right?
Absolutely.
But it's exhausting. I see you as such a wonderful human.
Yeah. No. And one of the things we've got some information in front of us. There's a line that came from a training that I did called Compassion Fatigue. And there's a huge long sentence in front of it, which is not necessary. It's Figley is the name of the individual who wrote this statement. But the end line is, we aren't sick, but we aren't ourselves. And I think that really speaks a lot to me about what happens in the work that is done when you care for other individuals. And that is, we aren't outrightly got a cold or stuff, but we're not exactly ourselves, and we can't give of our true selves, can't give of our complete selves when we are just emotionally, physically exhausted.
Fatigued, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, we this conversation is one of the strong points that we talk about in the work that we do, because there are some real factors that come into play, and that is many of us are overachievers.
Mm.
We like to just do, because that's important to us. We want to make sure that we're helping people. So we spend less time ourselves
Mhm.
and we spend more on other people.
Mhm.
And um,
Yeah, our home lives can be stressful, whether it's caring for other people or maybe we're going through a relational issue or whatever
issue.
it is. I mean, who knows? Everybody always has something going on at home
Yeah.
that's a stressor.
Well,
How big are the stressors? How many are the stressors? Do we have support for ourselves
Uh-huh.
outside of work?
Uh-huh.
Are we really taking care of ourselves in that sense?
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's a key component, because we all have our work families,
Hmm.
and then we have whatever we have as a home family. And that home family has just as many needs and demands on us.
Hmm.
And so how do we relieve a little pressure from our workplace and say no, or I can't, or there's no room for it?
Hmm.
And then when we go home, we say, I can't, I don't know, I don't have the energy, and I need to regenerate,
Hmm.
because those are some things. And then I think about what we all went through 4 years ago. Well, it's really only like 2 years ago. Talk about COVID stepping
Mm.
in and just mess occurring. And I'm sorry, that's a bad word, but
Yeah.
just taking apart all of our lives. So that minimal self-care, we're going to talk about that probably in the last break, about really stepping into what self-care looks like. But a lot of times we just use minimal self-care.
Minimal self-care. Well, and I would say like the absence of self-care and like one thing that I do is just like I forget to eat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not self-care. That's just
The
putting
opposite.
nutrients into my body that I'm missing. And at the end of the day, if I haven't put nutrients into my body and I'm going home to my little person, there's nothing left for him.
No, the
And
tank
that's
is empty.
completely empty.
Yeah.
And I've done that so many times.
Oh, me,
Oh
you, and
man,
me,
it's so
girl.
bad. And I have to remind myself, your little guy is just fine. You don't have any energy. You
Yeah.
don't have any food in you.
Mhm.
Put a little snack in you. Go play.
Yeah.
Man. So
No.
I put reminders in my
Yeah, and I think I really appreciate you saying that, because I think sometimes we have to use these devices that can
Mhm.
completely put us down a rabbit hole that
Mhm.
maybe regenerates us on our couch at night, maybe with yard and animal videos. Just saying, but we can use alarms on our phones to say, "Hey, ding, 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 ding. Let's eat or get out of your chair.
Yep, stand
Get
up.
out from in front of a computer screen." It's just, and then workplaces, we know that work is going through a lot of changes. A lot of workplaces are, and in the recovery field, there's movement all the time. We'll call it movement.
Yes.
Because people are either finding new opportunities or they don't like their workplace.
Or they don't like their workplace. And I mean, unfortunately, some people in this field don't take care of their self-care or themselves so much that it actually burns them out and some go back to use even.
Yeah. Or just walk away.
Or just walk away. I can't do this. I can't handle it. It's too much for me.
Yeah. So when we talk about compassion fatigue, there's some warning signs, and I'm just going to run through these real quickly. It's something that I challenged when I'm in my class, and I say, okay, how many people have felt some of these? And these are available online for folks, but potential warning signs for compassion fatigue and leaning towards that burnout, diminished creativity, the inability to embrace complexity, minimizing chronic exhaustion, physical ailments, avoidance, oh Lord, inability to listen. That is a big key component in the work that we do. And sometimes when you are tapped out, you don't hear people. You want to. I mean, it's not like we're not there, not caring, but not able to listen anymore.
Can I tell you a story about inability to listen? There was a day, and I told my participant about this, so it's okay. We started over. I was on the phone with my participant and I was so overwhelmed with the things that I had to do that I was multitasking.
Oof.
And she told me a story and I couldn't respond. And so I had to be honest. I just said I literally was totally focused on this other thing. I'm an a-hole. Pardon me. Let's please start over. She forgave me and we did. But that was awful.
Mhm.
That was me. I didn't have the ability to listen over here. Even if she was in front of me, I probably would have been thinking about the task
That
that
over
I had
there.
been working on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
No,
bad.
and you would not be the first, and you will not
Yeah,
be the last.
sure.
There are many times, too many times I cared to. I'm like, can you say that again? And it's not because I didn't hear it the first time. It's because I wasn't listening because
Yeah.
I was thinking about another task. And these are the things that we need to be aware of, particularly when we're dealing with people who are at their most vulnerable
Yes.
sometimes.
Yes.
And if we're not plugged in,
Yeah, that woman and I, we have a relationship for over a year now. If that would have been a new participant of mine, that could have turned her off so fast.
yeah.
I need to check myself to make sure that I'm helping those people right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do that quite frequently. I'll be sitting at my desk and people will come in and I will all of a sudden I'll feel the distraction coming in and I'll kind of turn my chair towards the distraction. And then now I'm very keen to like turn my chair and literally look at someone. This is one of the things that I do. And I suggest look at the person that you're talking to. Try not to even, I write notes periodically just because I need to. I'm going to continue on and I'll
Yeah,
have Erin
sorry.
read the next one. No, not at all. Feeling helpless and hopeless, can't do enough.
Mhm.
Oy. Feel the need to rescue, heal, or fix.
Mhm.
Yoicks, that fix. I say all the time, I have no right to fix anybody, but I have the right to be present and see what we can do. And then that hypervigilance. I mean, that's a real thing too.
Mhm. Yeah, so some other potential warning signs would be disassociative moments.
Hmm?
Yeah, I'm quite familiar with those too. Sense of persecution, feelings of guilt and fear, anger and cynicism, an inability to empathize. Ugh, that would be a tough one.
Yeah.
It's like our job.
Yeah, well, and there's where the tank just begins to empty
Yeah.
out. That compassion that you have for someone, which is overwhelmed, then your empathy tank just goes
Mhm.
down.
Yeah,
So,
and that's where you usually thrive is
Mhm.
using your empathy. Yeah. Addictions, man, cross addictions, right? We can lean
Absolutely.
into other things. It doesn't have to be substance anymore.
Yeah.
Grandiosity, taking on a victim mentality, blaming for others for all that doesn't go well.
Hmm.
Been there before.
Mhm.
Justifying all behavior, and frequent venting and complaining in bold letters.
Mhm. Yeah. You know, I say this and then I have to make sure that I'm very aware of it. Um, we have to talk about the problems and maybe what are the solutions
Mhm.
versus blah
Yes.
blah blah about stuff.
Yeah.
We'll just leave that open.
Yep.
Because if we just yatch, it will change the dynamic in an office.
Mhm.
It will change the dynamic of how you even work with your participants.
Yes, for sure. Up and down the whole office.
Yeah, it
Everybody
can
will take
just
that on.
yeah, and it's a thing, and it's not just in the world of peer recovery services. It is everywhere.
Yeah, I was thinking about other places that are
Mhm.
caregiving places. You know, you've got hospital settings and senior citizen homes and, you know, all sorts of different places where if you start with a bad attitude, man, does that catch on quickly.
Oh yeah,
But so does a good attitude.
and you can turn that frown upside down.
Right.
You know, that's what we can do, and
Yeah.
it's really important. I think about I ran into a couple of catering buddies at the Pride Festival, and man, we went down the dark lane really fast. It was
Oh,
really interesting, and then we turned it around. You know, because we were just sort of airing our grievances about certain situations, and it's just like. It's so easy, and we talk about this. It's so easy to go negative so fast.
Mhm.
That's why we open up this show with what's right with you.
Mhm.
And really, like you just said, Erin, we can turn conversations around, but we have to focus on it.
Mhm.
Because talking about the bad stuff, oh, so easy.
All day long.
All day, every day. Ain't that the
Yeah.
thing? So when we talk about burnout, it really is when you take all those warning signs, you add them up, and you got a lot on the list. That's when burnout steps in. And burnout is I call it dangerous
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that it can lead to depression. It can
Mm-hmm.
really step into some of your other traumas or dramas that you have in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And then they all just become exacerbated.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens is you're pretty much done.
Yeah.
You got to walk away. And walking away from a field that you love is both sad for you, but then we have seen people that have had to walk away and they've got individuals that they've been serving. And then
And that
that gets
connection,
complicated.
yeah, because when you make those connections, and it can be difficult to just I don't know how would you explain that to somebody?
Yeah, how do you explain? And this is why we have to be really careful, and that's why we're talking about this. And in the field that we work in, and then all those people that care for the people that are struggling with substance use disorder, it really is important to get the support that you need.
Mm-hmm.
So in the field and also within our community of those who are in recovery but still have their struggles,
Mm-hmm.
those who are trying to come around to their recovery. And then we have individuals that are practicing harm reduction that Erin is so very versed with, that people have a hard time understanding what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you navigate somebody who's still using substances, but they're doing a little bit better? But how do you change your mindset for caring for that person?
Mm-hmm.
And that can be inside the field and outside the field, because sometimes it's a real brain switch for folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Teacher Hawkins, who you have trained with. I took one of her trainings not too terribly long ago, and she talked about self-care and burnout, and mostly it was like self-care at work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have to make it a part of our work environment where people get to take breaks, where we are, somebody says, nope, take 5.
Mm-hmm.
Go for a walk
Mm-hmm.
and celebrate this day, because there's something to celebrate, because that takes a break out of the negative things that could be going on,
Mm-hmm.
right? And just shakes things up and puts something positive in your day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think the overwhelming part of your day, because sometimes we can hit
Mhm.
that information like not, and all of a sudden you're like, I don't know what to think about next because I'm stuck. People get stuck in their addictions, people get stuck in their work, people get stuck in their families, and people get stuck in the work that we do,
Mhm.
because sometimes there's just a lot of pieces coming at us. So we
Mhm.
just really need to be aware of what that looks like.
I think one of the things on there that we didn't really talk about was when we lose our creativity, because sometimes when there's so much, and you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be focusing on. And if I can't focus on this task at hand, how can I be creative with it at all? I'm just like,
Mhm.
looking at this big, huge pile of tasks.
Mhm.
And I just want to take one and just get it off of the list. So
Right.
I'm not doing anything like I want. I'm not putting my good effort into it.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm losing that creativity because there's just so much.
Yeah. And creativity works in so many different ways.
Mhm.
That creativity with care, that creativity with true creativity. I mean, talked about my garden.
Yeah.
I don't know what the heck I'm doing out there, but half the time I'm like, I'm actually literally seeing colors and seeing things. And so there's little pops in my brain, and I get to
Yeah.
imagine what things can and maybe sometimes should look like, because the weeds are taking over.
Right.
But that's where it's like, I get that whole other part of my brain. And that's what we have to remember. It's like we all have this workspace that we're in, but then there's all these other, I don't know, I'm looking at a brain and all these little synapses that can
Mhm.
pop, pip, pip, poop, 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 doo. And we need to keep everything firing, and firing for health, not
Right.
firing just to use, but firing for the good stuff.
So if I'm feeling fatigued,
Mm-hmm.
what is something that I should do? Or if you see that somebody is looking fatigued in their job, what are some suggestions?
So I think depending upon where you are in your day and what you're doing, what I would say is, first of all, get up from your space,
Mhm.
walk out of your space, because that's where the fatigue is draining you.
Mm.
And we walk out and maybe have a conversation with somebody that we know we can get some good energy from,
Mhm.
or we walk outside, rain or not, just smelling the moisture in the air or smelling the dry air, or help us humidity. And then really what happens is that taking some time away. It's like, you know what? I'm going to call on my participants. I'm going to let my boss know I'm taking an extra 2 hours off today. I'm just going to give myself a break,
Mhm.
because that's, to me, that's some of the things. Any ideas that you have?
I mean, I was gonna, say talking about it before I start, whining loudly
Mhm.
about it
Yeah.
to folks, and then hopefully getting some creative ideas to try and remedy whatever
What the
situation.
situation is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So there's in the moment, and then there's what can I do to move towards a solution to this.
Mhm.
So we're about ready to take our second break. In the last half, we're going to talk about what does self-care look like? What can we do to support ourselves? So see you in a minute.
Mhm.
I'm looking at this and something I saw at Pride. I don't know if
wanted
you
to-
saw it. It was a ring toss that had.
I was gonna say, Shawnee was playing it, and I wanted to take a video, but I didn't also want people to be like, he loved it.
Okay. Sorry, Brett. We got.
Yeah, no problem.
We
That's
got.
all
We got
good.
12-year-old brains right there.
All good. All right, here we go.
That little tune is a good reminder to remind you all about the Walk for Recovery. It's the sunset they're going to be playing for us September 21st from 10 to 3 at the state capitol. Be there or be square. I know what that means now. I
You
learned.
do. What does it mean?
Oh, man. So my sibling listens to the show, and they're fantastic, and they know little bits of information that nobody else knows. It's because if you're a circle, you're around.
Okay.
So don't be square. If you're square,
You're there?
you're not around.
Oh.
Get it?
I kind of do. I'm slow to the party.
Around.
Around.
I'm like near.
Okay.
Near around.
Okay.
That's an old one. Anyways,
There we go.
welcome
We're
back.
just so used to like saying it. I'm like, is there a meaning behind it? Or you just say it because just be there, be square.
Right.
Oh my
So
goodness.
here we are redefining recovery.
Yes.
We'll wrap up the show with self-care and why it's important and why we don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's important too, because I can give you a million reasons why I don't do it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Easy peasy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, should we talk about the myths around
setting boundaries
Setting
and
boundaries.
setting the precedent for being helpful to yourself is
Mhm.
really what it comes down to.
Mhm.
So sometimes when we say, no, I'm sorry, I can't, or no, I'm not going to do that, sometimes that can be perceived as selfish.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yes.
Lord knows I've had that feeling. I'm like, no, I just can't do it. Like yesterday when I took the day off, there's a million things I could have done at work. And I'm like, no,
Mhm.
I checked in a couple of times. I had to do a couple of things, but it was minor. But it's perceived as being selfish if you say no, because that's sort of what society says. It's like we have to always be available.
Right. Yeah. We don't always have to be that yes man.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sometimes if we are saying something and we have to say, I can't, or I won't, or that doesn't work for me right now, we can
Mhm.
be perceived as mean.
Oh yeah.
And
Why can't you do that? Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, but
Take
it's
things
not
so personally too.
Yeah, but it really is about saying what you need versus what you might be asked to do. It's not being mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we're setting boundaries because we're protecting our personal well-being.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's not mean.
No, not at all.
Mhm.
And I think the important part is that if I say I can't today, doesn't mean I can't tomorrow, but today I'm tapped.
It's not
So
permanent.
It's not permanent.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think
Okay.
a lot of times when people say, no, I can't do that, they're like, oh, well, she's mean or she's not, doesn't care. It's like,
Mm.
no, I don't have the capacity right now.
Mhm.
But when it will work for me, I'll let you know. Or why don't we take a look at that XYZ time later?
Mhm.
And then that way we can look at it when I've got my brain capacity back.
Yeah. Or find a solution and somebody else can do it maybe.
Yeah,
Who knows?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You spread the wealth.
What?
Give people another opportunity. Because there's some of us that might be sitting at the table that are wearing a blue top today that I don't intend to be someone who likes to have control all the time. But the way I grew up and the way that I had to manage my life, I was the only person I had to rely on. And so when you have the tendencies that it's all on you,
You got to make sure it's getting done.
And sometimes that can be perceived
Yeah.
as like, oh, Caddy, she's just a control freak. Yeah. Yep. She's going to micromanage me. And it really has nothing to do with that. It's just the way my brain is programmed.
Mm.
And I'm have to do some serious deprogramming. I dropped an email on a couple of people for the Pride Festival. And I'm like, I'm saying all this. I'm not trying to micromanage. I just want to make sure that you know. And then I had to, but the good thing is
Yeah.
I let them know.
Yep.
And then I let them fly.
Yep.
And maybe it worked out, maybe it didn't. But the fact is that I had a little bit of control, but then I had to let it go and let things happen the way they will.
Yes.
And that's okay.
Mhm.
It's okay.
I'll give you extra grace in this. You are the only one at MRC that has been there for
Several years.
Yeah, so
and
we need your input.
I know. And it's just so interesting. So, and that setting a boundary sometimes feels like it will hurt. It'll hurt me. It will make people not like me. It will make people sort of feel as though I'm the biatch. Or that's Caddy. She's, that way. And it might be perceived as, many different things, but the fact is that sometimes we have a capacity, and I don't want to hurt anybody else, and I don't want anybody to, feel as though I don't care. But it's kind of a wishy-washy kind of a feel. Sometimes when you say no, it's selfish or mean or whatever, but somebody can be hurt by you setting a boundary, and you have to be aware of that. And to what I just said, sometimes other people can feel hurt. They can feel frustrated. They can feel like, why should I try? So it's really important to remember to just know that when you are working on taking care of yourself, if you're kind about setting a boundary, if you're thinking about doing the right thing for you, remember that you have to take yourself into consideration first. Because if we don't take care of ourselves, literally, we can't take care of anybody else.
I had a situation this last weekend. A friend of mine and I have not spoken very frequently for a while. And then we spoke a couple of weeks ago, and she told me about some things that were going on. And then we had a conversation, and then a few more days went by and I hadn't reached back out, and this made that person upset. And it's not that it was a boundary issue, but sometimes it's that perspective taking. This person just thought that I was ignoring them, but really, man, I've got a lot going on.
Yeah.
I literally don't have the time for it sometimes. And then if I do have the time, sometimes I'm so exhausted I don't want to look at my phone or these things. And so we have to take those things into consideration too. Boundaries are so important. Yeah, I don't think that I learned them until I was probably 40 years old, but
I'm still learning them.
Yeah, they're really great.
And different people perceive different situations differently. If somebody's kind of in need, like your person was, and they kind of needed that touch base and they had that, they want the attention, but sometimes we have to say, hey, if it's a couple days before I get a hold of you, just know it's because I got a lot on my plate. Or if we don't, it's like, sorry, I was really busy with stuff. Tell me how you're doing. I've got several friends where I've just had to figure that I've known them for decades, and sometimes we just don't communicate very well with one another, and just come back and say, I just couldn't, or I sorry, and start fresh, and just know that it isn't personal. It's about life.
Yeah. Right. But so setting up those boundaries so that I can get my self-care in, that's really important.
Yeah. Just remembering that. And interestingly, I was talking to my stepmother the other day, and we were talking about someone, and we were talking about mental health. And I haven't had a therapist for a while because she retired. Oh, good on her. Bad on Caddy. And I thought, you know what? I think I need to start tweaking that part of my brain again, just for that self-care. Lots of things have happened in my life in the last 6 months, 8 months, and many years that just haven't been, touched on. So one of the quotes that I like from doing all of this self-care and awareness is Carl Braun, I believe is how we pronounce his name. I want to give credit where credit is due. This particular quote, I think, sort of sums up this particular conversation, which is taking good care of you means that people in your life will receive the best of you instead of what's left of you. Let me read that again because I think it is so well said. Taking good care of you means that the people in your life will receive the best of you instead of what's left.
Mhm.
How many times have you gone home and there ain't nothing in the tank for that little human of yours?
Too many times. Yeah. I'm really, really good about making sure I'm good before I get him now because my tank had been running on empty for far too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with
and it's
me.
not fair to him. It's not fair to our other people.
Our other people.
Right.
But it happens.
Mhm.
And so then I'll do it with my human Eric, and I'll just
Mhm.
say, honey, it's been a long day. And he'll agree that it's been a long day. And we just, like yesterday, we just sat in the backyard and kind of just sat, and the wind was blowing. It was beautiful. Sometimes we'll hold hands. Sometimes we'll just sit there, but we just sort of live in that moment of just taking a breath and decompressing a little bit. So thank you for listening. I hope this is somewhat helpful for you. A lot of this information is available online. Remember that we at Minnesota Recovery Connection are always looking for financial support, so and volunteer support. So minnesotarecovery.org is where you can drop a dime or two. But thank you for listening. Have a marvelous day. We appreciate you. I appreciate you, Erin.
Happy Saturday. I love you.
Bye.